Thank you.
Your Eminence, Your Excellencies, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank His Excellency, Ambassador George Poulides, Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, for his kind and respectful words on your behalf. I welcome all of you to this meeting for the exchange of greetings at the beginning of the new year. This is a traditional occasion in the life of the Diplomatic Corps accredited to the Holy See, but it is a new experience for me since it was only several months ago that I was called to shepherd Christ's flock. I am pleased, therefore, to welcome you this morning, and I am grateful for your generous participation, which this year is enriched by the presence of the new resident heads of mission of Kazakhstan, Burundi, and Belarus. I thank the respective governmental authorities for their decision to open in Rome diplomatic representations to the Holy See. This is a tangible sign of good and fruitful bilateral relations. To each of you, dear ambassadors, I wish to extend my good wishes to your countries and to share a reflection on our times, which are so troubled by a growing number of tensions and conflicts. This past year saw many significant events, beginning with those directly affecting the life of the Church, which experienced a profound jubilee and saw the return to the Father's house of my venerable predecessor, Pope Francis. The whole world gathered around his coffin on the day of his funeral and sensed the loss of a father who had guided the people of God with immense pastoral charity. A few days ago, we closed the last holy door, that of St. Peter's Basilica, which Pope Francis himself had opened on Christmas night in 2024. During the Holy Year, millions of pilgrims flocked to Rome to make their Jubilee pilgrimage. Each person brought his or her own experiences, questions, and joys, as well as pains and wounds, to pass through the holy doors, which are symbols of Christ himself, our heavenly physician. By coming in the flesh, he took upon himself our humanity in order to make us partakers of his divine life, as we contemplated in the recent celebration of Christmas. I am confident that through these experiences, many people have been able to deepen or rediscover their relationship with the Lord Jesus, finding comfort and renewed hope for facing life's challenges. In questa sede desidero esprimere particolare gratitudine ai romani che con grande pazienza e senso di ospitalità si sono fatti carico dei numerosi pellegrini e turisti giunti in urbe da ogni parte del mondo. Uno speciale apprezzamento desidero rivolgere al governo italiano, all'amministrazione capitolina e alle forze dell'ordine che si sono adoperate con zelo e precisione perché Roma fosse in grado di accogliere tutti i visitatori e gli eventi giubilari e quelli successivi alla morte di Papa Francesco potessero svolgersi in serenità e sicurezza. La Santa Sede e l'Italia condividono non solo la vicinanza geografica, ma soprattutto la lunga storia di fede e di cultura che lega la Chiesa a questa splendida penisola e al suo popolo. Ne sono un segno anche le eccellenti relazioni bilaterali, suggellate quest'anno dall'entrata in vigore delle modifiche all'accordo sull'assistenza spirituale delle forze armate, che consentirà una maggiore efficacia nell'accompagnamento spirituale delle donne e degli uomini che prestano il loro servizio nelle forze armate in Italia e nelle numerose missioni all'estero, come pure la firma dell'accordo per un impianto agrivoltaico a Santa Maria di Galeria, che consentirà la fornitura di energia elettrica alla città del Vaticano tramite il ricorso a fonti rinnovabili, confermando così il comune impegno in favore del creato. Sono poi grato per le visite che mi hanno reso le alte cariche dello Stato all'inizio del mio pontificato e per la squisita ospitalità riservatami al Palazzo del Quirinale dal Signor Presidente della Repubblica, al quale desidero far giungere il mio cordiale e riconoscente saluto. During the past year, having accepted the invitation given to Pope Francis, I had the joy of visiting Turkey and Lebanon. I am grateful to the authorities of both countries for their welcome. In Iznik, Turkey, together with the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople and representatives of other Christian denominations, I commemorated the 1700th anniversary of the First Ecumenical Council. This was an important opportunity for renewing our commitment to the journey towards the full, visible unity of all Christians. In Lebanon, I met a people who, despite their difficulties, are full of faith and enthusiasm. There I sensed the hope of young people who aspire to build a more just and cohesive society and to strengthen the bond of cultures and religions that makes the land of the cedars unique in the world. Dear ambassadors, prompted by the tragic events of the sack of Rome in 410 AD, St. Augustine wrote De Civitate Dei, the city of God. This is one of the most powerful of his theological, philosophical, and literary works. As Pope Benedict XVI observed, it is an impressive work crucial to the development of Western political thought and the Christian theology of history. It draws, as we would say in contemporary terms, on a narrative that was spreading for the pagans, still numerous at that time, and even quite a few Christians thought that the God of the new religion and the apostles themselves had shown themselves incapable of protecting the city. In the days of the pagan gods, Rome was Caput Mundi, the great capital, and no one could have imagined that it would fall into the hands of its enemies. Now, with the God of the Christians, this great city no longer seemed secure. Certainly, our times are very distant from those events. This is not simply a question of temporal distance, but also of a different cultural awareness and the development of categories of thought. However, we cannot overlook the fact that our own cultural sensibilities have drawn nourishment from that work, which, like all the classics, speaks to people of every generation. Augustine interprets events in history itself according to the model of two cities. First, there's the city of God, which is eternal and characterized by God's unconditional love, amor Dei, as well as love for one's neighbor, especially the poor. Then there is the earthly city, which is a temporary dwelling place where human beings live until death. In our day, the latter includes all social and political institutions, from the family to the nation-state and international organizations. For Augustine, this city was epitomized by the Roman Empire. Indeed, the earthly city is centered on pride and self-love, amor sui, and the thirst for worldly power and glory that leads to destruction. However, this is not a reading of history that seeks to contrast eternity with the present, the church with the state, nor is it a dialectic about the role of religion within civil society. In Augustine's view, the two cities coexist until the end of time. Each has both an external and an internal dimension, for they are to be understood not only in light of the external manner in which they are constructed throughout history, but also through the lens of the internal attitudes of each human being towards the realities of life and historical events. In this perspective, each of us is a protagonist and thus responsible for history. Moreover, Augustine emphasizes that Christians are called by God to dwell in the earthly city with their hearts and minds turned towards the heavenly city, their true homeland. At the same time, Christians living in the earthly city are not strangers to the political world, and guided by the scriptures, seek to apply Christian ethics to civil government. The City of God does not propose a political program. Instead, it offers valuable reflections on fundamental issues concerning social and political life, such as the search for a more just and peaceful coexistence among peoples. Augustine also warns of the grave dangers to political life arising from false representations of history, excessive nationalism, and the distortion of the ideal of the political leader. Although the context in which we live today is different from that of the 5th century, some similarities remain highly relevant. We are now, as then, in an era of widespread migratory movements. As then, we are living at a time of a profound readjustment of geopolitical balances and cultural paradigms. As then, we are, in Pope Francis' well-known expression, not in an era of change, but in a change of era. In our time, the weakness of multilateralism is a particular cause for concern at the international level. A diplomacy that promotes dialogue and seeks